Hey there. You know how you've been looking for better ways to manage pain? Well, get this. Today, we're diving deep into some really cool new research on a brand new way to take medical cannabis.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about a super innovative device they tested in a 2014 study.
Okay.
The title is a mouthful: The Pharmacokinetics, Efficacy, Safety, and Ease of Use of a Novel Portable Meter-Dose Cannabis Inhaler in Patients with Chronic Neuropathic Pain. A Phase 1A study.
Catchy.
I know, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
this is some serious science.
For sure.
This deep dive was requested by you, our listeners, and you're going to want to hear this.
Totally.
We're going to unpack what this study says about the SyqeAir Inhaler and how it measures up against other ways of using medical cannabis to relieve chronic pain.
Right.
So what's interesting here is that this inhaler is like those metered dose inhalers you use for asthma, but for cannabis.
Oh, so it's meant to be super precise.
Exactly. That kind of accuracy could really change things, especially for people struggling with chronic pain.
I can see.
Okay, so before we get into all the details about the inhaler, let's talk about chronic neuropathic pain. Can you give us a quick rundown of what it is and why it's so hard to treat?
Absolutely. Neuropathic pain is a type of chronic pain that comes from damage to your nerves.
Okay.
It's not like, the pain from a twisted ankle. This pain is persistent, and it can feel like burning, tingling, or even electric shocks.
Wow, sounds awful.
It is, and it's often resistant to standard treatments, so many people are looking for other options.
That makes sense. And that's where medical cannabis comes in, right? We're
Mm.
hearing more and more about its potential for pain relief. But smoking, well, it's not exactly the healthiest approach.
Yeah, you're right. Smoking cannabis has its drawbacks. The
Yeah.
dosage is inconsistent, you're inhaling harmful stuff, and it's not exactly discreet,
Yeah.
especially in public.
Right, definitely not ideal.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this SyqeAir Inhaler might solve a lot of those problems.
No.
It's precise, there's no smoke, and it looks just like any other inhaler, so no one has to know what you're using.
Right. So this study was designed to put the inhaler to the test. They got 8 patients with chronic neuropathic pain who were already using medical cannabis.
So these are people who already know how cannabis affects them and have been using it for pain management.
Yep.
That's a good starting point, right?
Yeah, definitely. It helps establish a baseline. Each patient got a single dose of cannabis using the SyqeAir Inhaler, and then the researchers kept track of a bunch of different things.
Well, I like this, like a detective story.
Right.
What kind of clues were they looking for?
Well, first, they measured the THC levels in the patient's blood to see how fast and how well the inhaler delivered the cannabis. Then they monitored the patient's pain levels, before and after using the inhaler.
To see if it actually worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, they were also looking for any side effects to make sure the inhaler was safe.
Got it. Okay, I'm hooked. Let's start with the first clue. How did the inhaler do in terms of delivering the THC? Was it slow and steady, or did it hit the system quickly?
You're going to be impressed. The SyqeAir Inhaler delivered THC super fast, like peak blood levels within 3 minutes.
Wow, 3 minutes. That's almost as fast as smoking, but without, the actual smoke.
You got it. And that rapid absorption means you'll start feeling the effects almost instantly, which is huge for people who need fast pain relief.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. But what about consistency? Was the dose all over the place like with smoking? Or did the inhaler deliver a predictable amount of THC each time?
That's where it gets really interesting. The study found that the SyqeAir Inhaler caused much less variation in THC levels between people compared to other methods, like smoking or vaporizers.
Wait, so if you and I use the inhaler, we'd probably have similar levels of THC in our blood, even if we have different tolerances.
Exactly. And that's huge because it means doctors can actually fine-tune your dosage and get you the relief you need without all that trial and error you get with traditional methods. It brings a level of precision to cannabis therapy that we just haven't seen before.
That's a real game changer, especially for people who've struggled to find the right dose with other methods. But let's be honest, the big question is, did this inhaler actually help people feel better? Did it really relieve pain?
The results are pretty compelling. Just 20 minutes after using the inhaler, patients said their pain intensity went down by a significant 45%.
Wow, 45%, that's huge. It's like taking a big step away from that constant pain. But like you said, this was a single-dose study, so those effects wouldn't last forever, would they?
Right. Like a lot of medications, the effects wore off after about 90 minutes. But even temporary relief can make a huge difference for someone with chronic pain, giving them a break from that constant discomfort.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just about how much pain you're in, it's also about, getting back some control.
Right.
even a short break from chronic pain can do so much.
Sure.
Your mood can improve, you sleep better, you can actually do things you enjoy again.
Totally. It's about improving your whole life, not just masking the pain.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. But before we get too excited, we need to talk about safety. Did the study find any red flags, any side effects? You mentioned they were watching that closely.
Absolutely. Safety is so important, especially with a new medical device. But the good news is the SyqeAir Inhaler had a really good safety profile in this study.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
What kind of side effects did they see, if any?
The most common one was mild lightheadedness, and it didn't last long.
Okay.
It went away quickly in everyone.
Yeah.
And there were no serious problems reported at all.
Okay, that's great news. So we've got fast pain relief, consistent dosing, and very few side effects. Sounds like the SyqeAir Inhaler is ticking all the boxes.
It really does.
But here's something I found really interesting. The study also asked patients how satisfied they were with the inhaler compared to smoking, their usual method. And guess what?
I'm curious. What did they say?
All 8 patients said they preferred the SyqeAir Inhaler over smoking.
Wow, really? That's surprising.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is, considering people usually think smoking is the fastest way to feel the effects.
Right.
But when you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
I know. I mean, no one actually enjoys inhaling smoke. It's harsh on your lungs and not exactly socially acceptable these days. Plus, with the inhaler, you know exactly how much you're getting.
Exactly. And remember, we're talking about people using cannabis for medical reasons. They want reliability and control, just like with any other medication.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me get this straight. The SyqeAir Inhaler delivers THC quickly and efficiently. It gives you consistent dosing, it relieves pain significantly, it's safe, and patients prefer it over smoking.
Yeah.
It almost sounds too good to be true. What's your take on all of this?
Well, what really stands out to me is how this inhaler could totally change the way we think about and use medical cannabis.
Right.
It tackles so many of the problems we've had with traditional methods.
Yeah, it's like we're finally bringing medical cannabis into the light, making it a legitimate evidence-based treatment option.
Right.
But is this inhaler really as groundbreaking as it seems?
I mean, this was a small, early study, but the results are really promising, and they line up with what more and more research is saying about the potential of cannabis to treat chronic pain.
So we're not just talking about anecdotes. There's real science behind this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember this study focused on neuropathic pain, which is super hard to treat.
Right.
If the SyqeAir Inhaler can help with that, just imagine the possibilities for other kinds of chronic pain.
That's a great point. Okay, let's zoom out for a minute and talk about the big picture. What could a precise, smoke-free system like this inhaler mean for patients and doctors?
Well, for patients, it could mean finally having a safer, more reliable, and more discreet way to manage their pain. Imagine being able to use your medication without worrying about the stigma.
Yeah.
It could be life-changing.
It's like having the control and convenience of an asthma inhaler, but for pain relief.
Exactly.
That's amazing. What about doctors? How do you think this device could change their approach to medical cannabis?
For healthcare providers, this technology could be huge. It allows for more accurate dosing, which means better control over side effects and interactions with other medications. Doctors can feel confident prescribing it, knowing their patients are getting a consistent dose every time.
Right, so it's like this technology could bridge the gap between the potential benefits of cannabis and the hesitancy some doctors have had about using it.
Absolutely. That lack of standardized dosing has been a big barrier to accepting medical cannabis.
For sure.
The SyqeAir Inhaler could be the key to overcoming that.
Okay, so let's say this inhaler becomes widely available. Do you think it could really make cannabis a mainstream medical treatment? Or is that getting ahead of ourselves?
I think it definitely has the potential, but we need to remember this is just one study.
Wow.
We need more research to confirm these findings and see how it works for other conditions.
Makes sense. So this is just the beginning of the story.
Yeah, just the first chapter.
What other research would you like to see done on the SyqeAir Inhaler?
Well, we need larger studies with more diverse groups of patients.
Okay.
We need to see how the inhaler works for different types of chronic pain and for people with different medical histories and tolerances.
Yeah, we need the full picture.
Right.
What about long-term studies? Are those important too?
Absolutely. We need to understand the long-term effects of using the inhaler.
Okay.
Make sure there are no surprises down the line. Safety is always the top priority.
So it's not just about proving that it works, it's about making sure it's safe and effective in the long run.
Exactly.
What about research on different dosages? Is that something that needs more exploration?
Yeah, for sure. This study used a single dose, but in real life, patients would need different amounts depending on their needs.
Right.
We need to figure out the best dosing strategies for different conditions.
That makes sense. It sounds like there's still a lot to learn about the SyqeAir Inhaler, but the initial findings are really exciting.
I agree. It's a big step forward in the field of medical cannabis and could potentially change the lives of millions of people suffering from chronic pain.
It really feels like things are changing when it comes to how we see and use medical cannabis.
Yeah, I think so too. The potential is definitely there, but for it to be really accepted, we need more research, people need to be more open-minded, and we need to be willing to rethink some old ideas.
You know, after looking at this study with you, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future of medical cannabis.
Me too. Seeing technology like the SyqeAir Inhaler come out is a really good sign.
Yeah.
It shows we're moving towards an approach to cannabis that's based on evidence and what's best for patients.
All right, let's recap what we learned today. We looked at a study on the SyqeAir Inhaler.
Right.
This device could be a game changer for treating chronic neuropathic pain because it delivers precise doses of cannabis.
And the results are impressive. The inhaler delivered THC really quickly and efficiently.
Yep, peak blood levels in just 3 minutes.
That's right. And it's as fast as smoking, but without the smoke and all the harmful stuff.
Exactly. And maybe even more important, the inhaler showed way less variation in THC levels between people.
Right.
That means we can start thinking about more personalized and effective treatment plans.
Definitely.
We also saw that patients' pain went down significantly
Mm-hmm.
after using the inhaler, and there were very few side effects.
And don't forget, the patients actually preferred using the inhaler over smoking.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
They liked that it was precise, there was no smoke, and it was easy to use.
So what does this all mean for you listening out there? Well, it looks like the SyqeAir Inhaler has the potential to revolutionize medical cannabis.
Yeah.
It's a safer, more controlled, and more discreet way to take this potentially powerful treatment.
And that could have a huge impact on patients, doctors, and the whole world of medical cannabis. It could lead to wider acceptance, more research, and better results for people dealing with chronic pain and other health issues.
Before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've seen how the SyqeAir Inhaler tackles a lot of the problems with traditional ways of using medical cannabis. Imagine being able to manage your pain without the stigma and the hassle. Could this inhaler be the key to a better quality of life for you? It's something to consider as you keep exploring this topic. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Keep those brains curious, and we'll see you next time.